have not opened a language learning textbook in about a year, but I think I am learning better now than when I only relied on textbooks. And also, I am sorry for not updating YouTube in so long. It has been a wild time settling into Hungary. I had some issues with my surgery again. I had to go for a third surgery. Turns out I was allergic to the titanium plates that they put in my jaw, so I had to go and get the titanium out. Things were not super great the last few months, but I'm settling in now and feeling the energy and motivation come back to make more YouTube videos. And you may notice a different background. I am in a new apartment. My bookshelf is empty-ish. How many textbooks did I bring with me from South Africa? 4 Hungarian textbooks, 1 written in Japanese, and then 2 Japanese textbooks. That is it, no other textbooks. And it is absolutely possible to learn through content only. Reading, watching movies, podcasts, talking to people, absolute immersion. Immersion, however, does not mean you have to visit or move to a country. I started learning Hungarian a few years ago before I had ever visited Hungary. So how did I do it? Absolutely finding every single little opportunity I had to squeeze every bit of language learning out from everywhere without a textbook. Have you ever memorized a dialogue from a textbook and then just never used it? When I learned Arabic at school as a kid, I remember sentences like "Ana urid khamsa burtuqal." I want 5 oranges. Great. I don't know why I still know how to say that, but that is not going to help me in life. Useful if you're ever in that situation, but for most people, I find that diving straight into what do you want to say, what do you know you're going to want to say in this language as soon as possible is more helpful. Let's look at my example of Spanish. There are 2 ways that I learned Spanish. One is talking to people, and the other is watching content. When I lived in Singapore, that is when I started learning Spanish, and I used to go to a Spanish language exchange, and I would just listen and make mistakes and throw myself in the deep end, bring a little notebook and say, ¿Cómo se dice eso en español? Wrote down everything and just soaked in this fully Spanish environment. I continued by watching a lot of shows, listening to a ton of podcasts, and a nice experience I want to share is that, weirdly enough, there are many Hispanohablantes in Budapest. The church I tried out on Sunday has so many Spanish speakers that the Bible verses on the screen are English, Hungarian, and Spanish. And I spoke more Spanish on Sunday than English or Hungarian. I felt even though I'm making mistakes, even though I might not remember grammar, this is such a good way to refresh the language for me, just to be surrounded by native Spanish speakers. If you don't use it, you will lose it. A textbook is not going to help you reach fluency if that is the only method you are focusing on. The first thing you do after learning the alphabet or writing system and after you learn basic readings and stuff is think, what kind of situations do I want to be in? I'll take another Hungarian example. I have two books in Hungarian about technology, artificial intelligence. Are these above my level? Absolutely. Do I enjoy them? Absolutely. Why do I prefer books like this over textbooks? Because I am way more interested in it than a boring textbook dialogue about losing my suitcase at the airport. I read very slowly, page by page, translating every important word that I don't know, looking up grammar, underlining stuff. It'll probably take me about 3 years to finish this book. But this is not for everyone. This is just the one thing that I love doing is reading immediately about topics that I'm interested in and memorizing the most important words to me. So I'll look up every word, but I won't try and memorize or write down every single word. And then I put myself in situations where I can use this. If I'm reading about AI deepfakes, TikToks, and reality, reading articles about that, listening to podcasts about that. And then you are constantly hearing and using the same words over and over, and that's how you're going to remember them. None of what I've mentioned here of how I learned Hungarian involves a textbook. Let's talk about sentence mining. This is basically gathering sentences that you find in the wild. Instead of single word lists, I have these painful memories. I can still see the worksheet in my mind from French class in high school. La maison, la famille, le chambre. So boring. Instead of memorizing isolated vocab words, you want to pull whole sentences from content that you mostly understand and then drill those with spaced repetition. Learning in full sentences really works because it is anchored in, like, the vocab word is anchored in a specific context. I always use the example of when you travel to a new country, you don't learn how to say where and bathroom and is and then make a sentence, where is the bathroom? You learn a sentence, where is the bathroom? Where is the toilet? You don't analyze that grammar, right? It's the same concept. You remember it better in a chunk. I even sentence mine from asking my friends. I asked my friend how to say, hello, I would like to mail this postcard to South Africa. Sarathim el Kurdani esto ki peshlapo de Africabo. And I had to use that at the post office today. Really, if you treat any encounter you have with the language as a learning opportunity, you can sentence mine anything. When I first started learning Korean in 2009, 처음에 한국어 배웠을 때 우리 남아공에서 그 교과서가 아예 없었어요. 그래가지고 막 시장에 한국 마트에 가서 뭘 좀 사고, 예를 들어 과자를 사고 나서 그 뒤에 그 like nutritional information 같은 거 있잖아요. 그거 막 노트에 쓰고 설탕, 우유 이런 단어를 배웠거든요. 뭐 포장을 보면서. So I treated everything as a learning opportunity when I didn't have other resources available. And that's how I learned. So spend the first 1 or 2 weeks of your language learning on high-frequency vocab and a few core grammar patterns. This is enough to start recognizing sentence structure. You don't need to master it or have it memorized. So this gets you to a functional point fast instead of just going through textbook chapters that you don't need yet. The next thing I really recommend is watching a ton of movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, anything you can watch and listen to. You need that auditory connection to help you with pronunciation, natural pace, etc. Watch a ton of things. I cannot tell you how much my Korean improved when I was a beginner just from watching K-dramas all the time. It's also easy to be consistent with this. If you're really into a book or a series, you are likely to finish it more likely than a textbook. Or is that just me? Now, if you're thinking, well, where do I find content? What do I watch in this language? I would love to recommend a tool like LingoPie. You will know if you've watched my other videos, I am a huge fan of LingoPie, and I can truly recommend them because I have been using LingoPie like 4+ years now. Again, this is a place that you can sentence mine entire sentences and phrases. What I love the most is just kind of casually watch. You can literally just hover over a word and it'll show you what it means. So by watching shows, you can make sure you're watching content that is just a bit above your level so that it's challenging, but related to topics that you're interested in. I'm currently watching El Libro Más Misterioso del Mundo, the most mysterious book in the world. So here I am saving a flashcard from a clip in one tap, and then I can go to the review screen and then see these clips that come directly from the episode.
Un siglo.
Un siglo, a century.
Aleatorias.
En series aleatorias de símbolos.
Aleatorias, random. And if you need grammar explained to you, you can just click and get a full grammar explanation and ask questions here. And as a polyglot, I love that they support so many languages and they are constantly adding new ones. LingoPie is currently running a 73% discount promotion if you sign up using my link in the description. I'd love to hear in the comments how you use videos or media to learn a language, so drop a comment and maybe you can help someone else out. If you have watched any language YouTuber, you've probably come across the term comprehensible input. That is the core of learning a language. Even with or without a textbook, you need to get a lot of input, different sources, just a little bit above your level so you can still understand it, but have stuff to learn. The concept of comprehensible input is that you acquire a language by understanding messages slightly above your level not by consciously studying rules about the language. So there is a difference between learning about a language, like doing grammar drills, versus acquiring a language by absorbing patterns and understanding real context. Another tip is shadowing. So important. Shadowing is basically repeating after what you've heard. This is something I love doing. You can use it in connection with LingoPie, for example. You listen to a sentence, pause, and then repeat it out loud. This helps you get those speaking muscles going. This is usually something that like formal pronunciation drills don't do. If you're just sitting in a class or listening to a CD and you have to repeat a word over and over, you don't get that pace, the rhythm, the tone of the language. And this is why shadowing is so important to help you get to a point where you sound more native, more natural. There's a really big thing I see with my coaching clients, link below if you want to check out my language coaching, is that I can understand, but I can't speak, or I'm too scared to speak, but I've been learning the language for 3, 4, 5 years. That's because people don't have or create opportunities for them to speak the language from early on. There are schools of thought from, oh, you need X amount of hours first before you can speak. And then what I've made really clear on my channel is speak as soon as you have enough vocab and know what a sentence structure is, a word order, try and speak, because that's how you learn. Then something very important is making sure you have people to practice with. Start speaking as soon as you can. I mean, how did early human civilizations communicate without textbooks to each other? You just throw yourself in the deep end. It doesn't matter if you're speaking to a native speaker or someone who has learned that language to fluency, as long as you're getting some speaking practice. You can also join a Discord. There are many Discords for language learning. You are very welcome to check out my language club. The link is in the description. I have a bunch of freebies and stuff, but if you join the language club, you get access to my Discord. And we have a bunch of language learning practice channels where you can speak to people in different languages. Then something I love doing is translating text. It might sound boring, so if this is boring to you, just skip. But this is what I love. It is engaging with text that you find anywhere. It doesn't have to be a textbook. It can be an article. You can ask a friend to say something out loud in a language and you have to write it down, test your spelling. I like to copy things from books, song lyrics, literally like conversations that my friends have with me. Use something that you know is native and correct content. You can also do it the other way, where you have a short text and translate it into your target language. That is a bit more challenging. I also like to produce as much as I can and use that as a language learning opportunity. So I will give myself a topic and write about it as much as I can. Please watch this old video of mine. It is old but gold, of how I write in a new language. I also have this ebook on a bunch of writing prompts and how to start writing in a new language. This I really recommend to you because it helps you find like gaps in your vocab and grammar. It can even be as simple as writing a journal every day or every week. Like, what did I do this week? Let's say I'm writing, today I did the dishes in Korean in my journal, and I don't know how to say do the dishes. I might go like, 오늘 그릇을 씻었어. Like I washed the plate. Or I can be like, all right, I don't know how to say that. Let me use this as a teach myself opportunity. Look up, 설거지하다. 오늘 설거지했어. I did the dishes today. That helps you learn something new. And when you're constantly writing, you might use these words. It's such a stupid, boring example about doing the dishes, but let's say that you do that every few days and you write about it, that word is going to stick after 2 or 3 times without you needing to use a flashcard for it. I would love to know which languages you are learning and do you use a textbook or not. Leave your comments in the comments in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!